Okay, so here is a hopefully quick demo of my digital commonplace book that I'm currently setting up within Notion. Now, I'm using the concepts that are in Tiago Forte's book, Building a Second Brain. So, with that in mind, let's just quickly remind ourselves of how we set up that second brain. So, he recommends using the para method, and para stands for projects. So the P is for projects, the A is for areas, the R is for resources, and the other final A is for archives. So projects are connected to a specific goal and they've got a deadline. They're big chunks of work in your life and should be where you're putting most of your time and energy. Areas, on the other hand, are the bits and pieces of life or work that require continuous maintenance and attention, but don't have an end date. They are your everyday activities and responsibilities relating to your life or work. So, a project for me could be writing a month's worth of articles for a Substack topic, which is how I work, whereas an area could potentially be health and fitness or mental well-being. It could be articles that I would want to store somewhere that relate to those areas in my life. So health and well-being isn't a project that necessarily has an end date. It may be something that you want to continually maintain and upkeep. Resources, on the other hand, are topics or themes of ongoing interest. They are back burner items that you're interested in, but you're not quite ready to take action on them right now, but you know that they could come in useful later on down the line. So I could store maybe fitness. Exercise moves that relate to the area of health and fitness, but I'm not ready to assign it to that area, or I'm not quite ready to set, say, a project of a month of HIIT workouts. So I might want to build up a resource library of HIIT workouts, but I'm not ready to assign it to a project quite yet. I hope that's making sense. And then finally, we've got archives, which includes all of the inactive items from the other three categories that you're no longer using that you might need for reference in the future. And one thing that I noted from Tiago's book when it comes to archives, he recommends that when a project is complete, you put it into your archive, and then when you're starting a new project, you can always do a quick skim through your archives of other projects and the other resources and areas that you may have within your archives to see if there's anything worth reusing from that work that you've already done, essentially. So you can always use your pre-existing research and notes and ideas to help fuel the start of a new project. Now, within the Para system, Tiago recommends using a process for organizing your notes. So he would start off, well, actually, let's go back a step. So we want to capture notes quite quickly, and that's where this Commonplace book comes in. So let's just come out of this. So in here, we've got an inbox, and this is all about capturing what resonates when we see it in that moment. We're not necessarily going to start organizing it yet, but we just want to have a place where we can put that idea on ice, as it were, for later when we want to look at it from a more objective viewpoint. So it could be notes for something that you found on the web, or it could be an idea that you've had, or just something that you're not ready to take action on just yet. So that's where the inbox area is set up within this Commonplace book. When it comes to implementing para within this inbox, that's where we can use this organizing technique, which works with the para system. So the first step of the process would be to ask, is this note or idea part of a project? If it is, then you put it in the relevant project folder. If it's not, you go to step 2. Step 2 is is it part of an area? So is it something relating to finances or health and fitness or medical or home maintenance? If it is, then you label it under the applicable life or work area. And if it isn't, you go on to step 3. Step 3, you ask yourself, well, is it a resource? So if it is a resource, say it's a workout move that you want to save for later, a recipe, a tip for looking after your heating system in winter, a piece of research data from a medical journal that it could be useful for an article you want to write later, whatever it might be, you can label it with an applicable tag so that it makes it easier to find and use later. But if it's not a resource, then it leads us on to step 4, which is if it's none of the above, then archive it. And the archive is where we can keep things so that we can go and dig in our archive in case we can find something useful, but we don't want it cluttering up our current workspace. Our current workspace is meant to be an area where everything that's on there is something that is actively being used in this now moment for a project or for moving a goal forward or for progressing areas of your work or life. So now we've got some of the kind of ground rules, as it were, out of the way. Here is the Commonplace book within a Notion setup. So as I showed you before, we've got an inbox. In here, we can add in a new idea or note or a bookmark to a website. So let's just call this, I don't know, notes from the 5 of building a second brain. And then you can just add some notes in here that you've say you've been listening or reading the book and you just want to capture some thoughts about it. You can jot that down in here. I'm not going to write anything at the moment, but then you can leave that to come back to organising at a later date. So inbox is everything that needs to be organised. This is just our capture place. And one thing that's recommended you do is say capture everything over the course of a few days, and then maybe at the end of the week do a complete organize, like have a time to review all of these new items within your inbox and then start organizing them into the relevant projects or areas. Tiago recommends that you keep capturing and organising as separate activities so that it's making the whole system of capturing ideas during their kind of inception, I guess, making that whole process as frictionless as possible. If you start trying to organise everything and think where should it go and how you want to label it and all of that stuff, you could kind of get bogged down with the mental burden or cognitive burden of trying to figure all of that stuff out, and then maybe the idea might lose some of its freshness. So when it gets to a stage where you want to start organising these notes, you can come into anything that's new in your inbox and start assigning it into an area or a project. So it could be, let's come up here, let's say we're going to assign this one to a project. It's going to be content creation. So I will just click on that so that it's assigned to content creation project, and as you can see, it instantly disappears from the inbox area. So it's all pretty seamless. You haven't, like when you start organizing things, you haven't actually got to do anything. And the way in which that works is because there's a property which I've just hidden for now, because it has a formula in there which will do all of the figuring out of looking at whether areas is empty or projects is empty. And if either one is empty, it will remove those. The only thing that I haven't included on here is resource, so I will update this with resources. So well, actually let's just do that now. Let's add in a new property, resource, And let's make this a multi-select, and then it'd be down to you to define what those resources are. Let's just change the icon. Oh, I'm not really sure. What should we use? Maybe use a tag to tag it. And then let's come to our hidden property inbox. Let's just edit the formula on there. And empty resource. Okay, cool. And then let's just move these around. Done. Okay. And let's move this one up higher as well. There we go. So we've got, and that one should be before that really, shouldn't it? So we've got our para set up there as it is defined by Tiago: project, areas, resource, and archive. So when we come into the project view, this is a gallery view within Notion, and it's been grouped by projects. So anything that's been labeled as content creation project, they would all be together within the content creation project area. And as you create more, not area, but yeah, well, group, project creation group. And as you create more items for projects, you'll begin to see more groups appear. Areas, again, that's being grouped by the different labels that we can have for the different areas. I've just set up some dummy ones here. Current is and again, this is, sorry, I should say this is a gallery view. So again, you'll see cards like this where you get a little bit of an overview of the content that is within that particular page. So we can see a little snippet of the content here, as well as seeing the title or the name of that particular item. Areas will be a similar sort of thing. If we scroll down, I've got one item within this database that's been labelled with an area. Current is a table view of everything that hasn't been archived. So here I can just come in and see everything that's listed in my current Commonplace book. And then archive is just things that I've archived for later, and again it's another table view. Now if I share with you my current Commonplace book, I've done things slightly differently because I'm testing out this system for my content creation process. So I wanted an area or a workspace within Notion where I can start to store notes and ideas for the different content pieces that I want to create. I have my Substack that I write for, as well as a YouTube channel that I produce videos for. So I wanted an area where I could put all of my research into, any bookmarks and clips from Audible or Kindle can come into here. I can transfer them across. I haven't found an easy way of transferring from Audible, like taking out the data that I've made with bookmarks and clips, because I tend to use Audible, but once I figure that out, I will share how I'm doing that. I know there are ways that you can do it with Kindle, but I don't really use Kindle. For me at this stage of life, it's just easier to listen to audiobooks. So in here is where I am keeping all of my notes for different things. Now I'm not labeling things by project or grouping things by project and areas. I'm doing it by projects and tags, just because I'm only doing this within one area, which is my content creation area. There's not going to be other areas yet. I'm not going to have a finances area or home maintenance or family medical or health and well-being. Those aren't going to be areas that I'm working within for this particular Commonplace book. So instead I decided that the Commonplace commonplace book would be for an area, content creation, and then within that I would tag things as the different resources that they are. So these are things that I found across the web to do with creativity. Here's something about goal setting. I've got some health and well-being. So you could argue that, yeah, these are maybe areas, but it was just the way my head got it's the way I got my head around setting this up for how I wanted it to work best for me. One thing I've done slightly differently is, because within my Notion setup, I do have a database for my projects, I've actually decided to have this as a relation object within, a relation property within Notion, so that I can link an item to an actual project within my Notion workspace. So this November 2023 Substacks actually links out to a separate area within my Notion setup where I've got all of my projects set up, and in there I've got a bank of the articles that I'm writing. So if I show you that, how it works, you can see here it's taken me to my November 2023 Substack writing. This is my actual project that I'm working on at the moment. Here is the Kanban board of my tasks, which are the different articles that I've got to write, and then the particular article that this screencast is for is right here. So we can see I've made some comments to myself, and then I've got my outline. I've got oh my gosh, my brain's gone blank. Contents area, and then if you click on that, this is the actual article that I'm working on. So this whole setup here is a template that I've created that sort of helps me with my content writing process, but with sort of different prompts that help me just go from having a blank page to actually writing something and doing the research and making sure I'm thinking about the audience and the promise and coming up with title ideas and all of these sort of tips for call to action. And yeah, so it's a whole thing. But if we go back to the top, go back into the project, we can see here my Commonplace book property, where it's showing me that particular note within my Commonplace book. If I just open that full page, this is all of my notes from listening to Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. I just listed out all of the things that I've found interesting. I've had AI help me summarize some of these bits and pieces, which is also quite handy. Whilst we're on the subject of AI, another thing that I think is quite useful, if you pay for the AI feature within Notion, I highly recommend utilizing the if you just edit property, if you utilize the property where you can do an AI autofill of a summary, because that will allow you to, if you come out of here, when you are looking at your different notes and what have you, I haven't got one there. That's annoying. Update. You will be able to quickly get a summary of what this particular note is about, which is just like super helpful in terms of being able to quickly see whether something is going to be useful or not. And I think I would potentially even look at changing this so that these snippets were actually the AI summary, but I wanted to make the version that I'm sharing with people as easy to use as possible. So that's why I didn't use any AI features, because I wanted it to all be like the free, straight out of the box version of Notion without any paid upgrades. I think one other thing I will add to here quickly will be maybe it should be a list view for the resources, just so that all makes sense. I'm not sure. What do you reckon? Gallery or list? Or maybe table. Yeah, let's do a table. Resources. Let's just change that. What did we use for resources? We did the tag, didn't we? So I just want to do this so that we've actually got, there we go, our para set up there. So let's have a look in resources. Let's add the different views here. Hey, let's see, right. Let's show project resource. Okay, let's move that one there. Okay, cool. That's a bit better. So that we are sticking to the para system. So hopefully all of that makes sense. If not, I'll have to re-record this video and re-explain this whole screencast. But essentially, we're following the para system. We've got an inbox for quickly dumping in new notes. We can just click new, add a new note, and worry about organising it later. When we're ready to start organising, we can just click on a note and decide whether it's part of a project, part of an area, or part of a resource, or if it's none of those things, we can just click it as something to be archived. We can see a current list of everything. Let's just add in the resources to here, show that as well. And let's just organize that so it shows para kind of. We can see our projects as a gallery view. We can see our different areas that we've got going on for our life. And again, you can change these tags quite easily for yourself. So if we just come into this one, we see areas here, you can see the list. If you start writing out something else, let's say task management, enter, and now we've got a new property, or we can just get rid of that and might just delete that one as well. There we go. So it's quite quick and simple to add things in. Again, you can search for an option or create a new one for your project, and the same with resources. If you do have any questions, because I feel like I'm maybe being a bit fluffy with my explanation, or maybe glossing over things that to me seem very obvious, then do just drop me an email. But I hope this helps, and I'm looking forward to sharing the next stage of my Commonplace book build out within Notion. Bye for now. Bye.